It's terrifying to see someone like that just openly just keep lying and lying and lying and lying and just not. It's like she's almost like waiting for someone to call her out, and it's like they're laughing on her faces, like just like they got that check, it cleared.
I find it like very odd that they just jumped right into being influencers. And to me, that reads more like they're concerned with like building up this platform as influencers and kind of having a little bit of a cash grab with that rather than like genuinely this being about their faith. Basically, they're charging people to go to church.
I mean, it's just so weird, like to just play this music and have people like, these girls are like sobbing.
They're marketing themselves to this like evangelical niche, but then they're not really like living that lifestyle, it seems like.
I think when you come out and have a whole brand and say that you were, had this crazy awful past, but you're not really clear on what that was, and then this stuff comes up from the past, it's kind of like, well, what do you mean? Like, why didn't you just say that? I know that they would shame a woman who does OnlyFans, but not admit that they would be doing that if this wouldn't have worked out for them. You know what I mean?
Right.
You were in that life. When she confronted Ari and Angela, we're kind of like, why would you tell him all of that? Like, I didn't want you to tell him all of, that I was struggling with God, just to get, this kind of personal. They just blocked her. She even included me that she like told her probation officer that she had slipped up again and like just totally cut her off after that. And she said it was so hard, after that to recover from all this. Very disturbing that I've had multiple people come to me about multiple stories that have been them actively dismissing women's claims of, abuse.
There's like no words for how disgusting that is to me, because clearly it shows that they don't actually have any empathy really for their followers.
Hi, I'm Ange. And I'm Mari. And this is
Girls Gone Bible is among the most popular podcasts for Christian women worldwide. In just 2 years, hosts Angela Halili and Ariel Reitzma, both working actresses and models, have transformed their small podcast into a vast media empire. Their loyal fans, mainly young women and teenage girls, faithfully listen to every podcast episode and shell out hundreds of dollars for Girls Gone Bible merchandise, subscriptions, and in-person events. Angela and Ari are currently on their For God So Loved the World tour, where tickets range from $40 for balcony seats to hundreds of dollars for seats close to the stage. In June, they're launching their first ever book called Out of the Wilderness. It's basically just a journal that includes 31 devotionals they claim will help readers face life's challenges. Of course, like most books created as an influencer cash grab, each devotional ends with a few pages for the reader to fill in themselves. I mean, why write an actual book when your fans will willingly pay you to just jot down a few Bible verses, throw in a personal story or two that you've already talked about on your podcast for free, and fill the rest of the book with blank pages your readers have to fill in themselves? Their massive success has even led to them rubbing shoulders with some of the world's most influential people, including President Donald Trump. Just recently, Angela and Ari opened for Trump's victory rally the night before his presidential inauguration. During their speech, which seemed to exactly copy the cadence of Trump's current faith advisor, Paula White, they made outrageous claims regarding Trump's messianic status and threatened anyone who opposes his administration.
So, President Trump, we set the name of the Lord upon you, and we declare that no weapon formed against you will prosper, that every tongue that rises up against you in judgment will be condemned. And if God be for you, who can be against you?
Despite their fawning over Trump, which did put some fans off, Girls Gone Bible still remains massively popular. I think a big reason for this is that many young women find Angela and Ari to be both relatable and aspirational. The entirety of the Girls Gone Bible empire is built on Angela and Ari's born-again testimonies. They both tell this story of being sucked into the alcohol-fueled party girl scene of LA and finding Jesus when they were at their rock bottom. While of course not everyone can relate specifically to falling into the LA party scene, there's still a narrative here that many young Christian women can relate to. Many have experienced moments of regret or despair and have turned to spirituality for sanctification and guidance. According to Angela and Ari, after devoting their life to Christ, they left the party girl scene behind and started a Christian podcast to help other struggling women do the same. Naturally, many young women and girls look to them as role models and hope to one day be just as godly, successful, and beautiful as Angela and Ari. Unfortunately, Angela and Ari's testimonies are likely rooted in a carefully crafted narrative rather than genuine faith. Recently, I sat down with Jenny Nieman, a nurse and model who once was a big fan of Girls Gone Bible. Jenny became disillusioned with Angela and Ari after attending one of their live events, which Jenny will explain in further detail later in this video. When she saw them publicly endorse Donald Trump, she decided this was her last straw and it was time for her to take a stand. Jenny quickly took to TikTok to express her deep disappointment with the women she once looked up to.
And it's hilarious to me the fact that their followers are so swayed by them saying that they're not politically motivated, yet the only times that they've spoken at political events have been Donald Trump or JD Vance rallies. So let's talk about what Jesus actually said. Girls Gone Bible, I hate to break it to you, but Jesus never taught us to pray for those in power or cozy up to those in power. Jesus taught us to pray for those who are oppressed by those in power. The poor, the immigrants, the widows, the marginalized. I've never heard Girls Gone Bible talk about any of these groups because they don't care. They're spewing white Christian nationalism propaganda that is directly supported by Donald Trump.
After posting her TikTok, several women messaged Jenny saying they believe Girls Gone Bible's conservative Christian branding is mostly a facade, and that neither Angela nor Ari are actually living up to the strict standards that they hold their followers to. One person even had video proof of this, which we'll show and further discuss later in the video. Jenny took to TikTok once again to talk about all of this, but unfortunately, she was bullied so badly by Girls Gone Bible's fans that she had to take the TikTok down. Jenny's brave decision to talk about all of this publicly, even if she ultimately took it down, sparked a few more women to come forward about their bad experiences with Girls Gone Bible. Former GGB fans began messaging Jenny with their stories, some of which were extremely shocking. I have to say, I've covered Girls Gone Bible for a while now and have long suspected that something a little more sinister was lurking behind their born-again, Jesus-freak public image. But some of these stories shocked even me. If these stories are true, and I have no reason to believe they're not, Angela and Ari have done some truly heinous things. In today's video, Jenny and I are bringing all these stories to light as we believe that Girls Gone Bible's followers are owed transparency. If you're a GGB fan and you're listening to this, I hope this video prompts you to stop and reflect. Are Angela and Ari truly on a mission to help women in their walk with Christ, or is it all simply a marketing ploy to further build their wealth and influence? Before we get to any of that though, we need to start at the beginning. Jenny, what initially drew you to Girls Gone Bible?
So I was kind of like, I just love their show. So it was about like last year. I'd always kind of been grew up in like the church and stuff, but I kind of went through a really bad breakup, really bad mental time. I feel like we all kind of like seek faith at our like low points. Of course, it's always been a current theme in my life, but when I had a few things happen to me, I'm like, let's get back in. And of course, I found their content. I think I must have found it on YouTube, but it draws you in, you know what I mean? Because it's so relatable. You feel like you're just like catching up with your two girlfriends on the couch, like hanging out, like it's girly talk time. Like it was just like so cute and fun, you know what I mean? And at the time, I just was like it just felt like a comfort podcast. Like I could listen to them. It made me feel better, made me feel closer to my faith. And at the time, I was obviously kind of going through some stuff. So it helped me. You know what I mean? So I was a big fan of them. I really like them. And I feel like last year, they really, like, especially at the beginning of the year, they weren't doing too many bad things. But then it's like, I saw like your relationship advice video made about them. Just like, oh, like another one. And there's been a lot of clips I've been like picked out of that are just like, oh, like spun around on social media. Like they just, the alpha males have been like eating up that kind of like, and it was something my ex would like love to say too. Like, the kind of like, I want you to, blindly follow me and whatever. And it's like, I know now my ex is a narcissist. So it's like, the fact that like they say these things and it like enables like men like that to be like, yeah, women should just do whatever we say and like blindly follow us. It's like, oh, it is so it's like it sucks. And then I did go see their show as well. So like having that experience, I was a super big fan. And then like later this year was when they kind of started like diving into politics and like these big like, and then kind of not really like being clear on where they stand as well. So that kind of made me lose a lot of respect for them, obviously. So
Yeah, no, like they clearly, even though they kind of position themselves as apolitical and they try to be neutral or not dive into those topics too much on their podcast. Oh, sorry, my dog's freaking out. Hold on one second.
you're all gonna have a dog also, I feel you.
Sorry. I'm just gonna hold him. There is somebody like rolling something down our hallway and he's like freaking out about it.
He's like, I gotta protect. He's activated.
Yeah, no, he is very activated.
I love
Right. But yeah, like they try to be kind of neutral, but they've obviously aligned themselves super strongly with the Trump administration. I mean, opening up for the Trump rally is about as Republican as you can get. So that's very concerning to me.
And something I never understood about that is even in faith, like we're taught like there's a quote, the Bible, don't go and pray on the street corner, go and pray in private. And, it's one thing to pray for Donald Trump. That, cool. If you want to do that on your own terms, that's great. If they were invited to do that, that's great. But when you post a video of you doing it on social media, on your, account where you're promoting this that is endorsement. Like you can do those things and not post about them, maybe mention it in a story or something like that. But when you're obviously posting with the candidate, praying over, that's an endorsement, unfortunately, in today's society. But when you only post with one side and then, and a lot of their fans kind of came back at me and said, well, what if the Democratic or the DNC didn't invite them to anything? Well, that's cool, but then don't only, stay on one side. Yeah, that's a good, but like, I just feel that you could have just stayed super neutral and not posted anything. But and it's okay to like have a political affiliation. I just like stand on it is basically, just, just own it. Don't act like, you're neutral.
Right. Yeah, and it is a very obvious endorsement because, like you said, they could have just, if they wanted to pray for Trump, there's nothing wrong with that. I can see, I'm not a Christian, but I can see as a Christian that being something that you would want to do. But when you put it out there publicly like that, you are endorsing a candidate. You are saying to your fans, hey, this is who you should vote for. And especially considering, from what I understand, like they consider their podcast to be kind of like a ministry. And Christian ministries aren't supposed to be endorsements for political candidates. So there's like a whole other thing, other issue with
It's interesting how they kind of play around with like the ministry terms.
Yeah.
And it's just like they don't have any really business saying.
Yeah, I mean, I have an issue with them calling it a ministry or viewing it as a ministry. I personally don't think that a podcast is a ministry. I don't consider what I do to be a ministry. I consider it to be like influencing,
Also, you have to like have some kind of experience in divinity school to be like mentoring young people in like Bible studies like they were doing. Yeah, it's just beyond me, especially like, I mean, and what's even scarier is just knowing that they're actresses, like,
Yeah.
because it's just like it feels even more like just like a whole role, unfortunately, like that they've just. I mean, and it's honestly, a lot of people say like you're jealous. Maybe I am. Like that was a crazy market to like tap into and go for. And like I would have not really done it in that way. Of like I think they really lost a lot of like women when they started like shaming women for like the modesty stuff because they got caught up in like some controversies about the modesty stuff, and I just feel like they were to just own it and understand that using religion to shame women into modesty is not right, and that's about control and oppression, really, and they realized that instead of falling into this rabbit hole of, like, modesty and, like, traditional values and all of this stuff and being a submissive woman, like, I just wish that they would have owned that more because it would have made me like them more.
Hey guys, Editing Taylor here. I did briefly want to clarify. Jenny brought up the controversy that Girls Gone Bible has gotten into in the past regarding modesty. So this was actually back in 2023, I believe. There was a New York Post article written about Girls Gone Bible, and this would have been shortly, I think, after they had started their podcast. But the article is basically about how Girls Gone Bible's fans were upset with them. They were upset with Ariel and Angela for not dressing modestly in their Instagram pictures while simultaneously talking about modesty and purity and things like that on their podcast. So basically, Angela and Ari were posting to Instagram in outfits that are not typically considered modest in the evangelical world. And that just kind of rubbed a lot of their fans wrong because a lot of their fans are evangelicals. And that's who Girls Gone Bible actively market themselves to. So that's another example of the weirdness when it comes to Girls Gone Bible, where it just seems like things are not quite adding up because from the very, very beginning, Girls Gone Bible has obviously marketed themselves to evangelical, conservative Christian women, and yet the lifestyle that they were leading at the same time didn't really match with what they were preaching. So yeah, that was the controversy.
And their whole brand, again, is built on them being ex-party girls and being wild and not being perfect in their faith. So why not own that? Why not, own all the stuff that we're going to be talking about today if that's, truly a part of your past and something that nobody should be ashamed for.
Right. Yeah, and you speaking of how they're actresses, that was one of my initial concerns with them is just the fact that they seem to have this kind of born again conversion to Christianity. It doesn't seem like they were strong Christians until a couple years ago. And I do find it suspicious that pretty much a few months after they rededicated their life to Christ, I guess, they started this podcast. I find that concerning because I don't think that they have the education or experience to really be positioning themselves as these mentors and spiritual advisors to all of these young women. Personally, I would think that they would want to take more time to really discover what their faith means to them first rather than
At least go to the baby school.
yeah. Yeah, I find it very odd that they just jumped right into being influencers. And to me, that reads more like they're concerned with building up this platform as influencers and kind of having a little bit of a cash grab with that rather than genuinely this being about their faith. I don't know. They could be Christian, they could really believe it, but I still just find the whole influencing aspect of it concerning. And also talking about the relatability, you had mentioned that for you was very relatable to see these women who you kind of see as role models. They're beautiful, they're very confident in what they say, you can relate to a lot of their experience. It's interesting because for me, I grew up in evangelicalism. I actually was a missionary kid. So I'm very steeped in that culture. And when I found Girls Gone Bible, I had already left the church, but a lot of what they were saying, like, I've heard it 1,000 times. Like, they don't say anything that is that, like, unique or original. So for me, it was really difficult to understand why so many people were really attracted to them. But I think that you, like, hit the nail on the head with they're just very relatable, or they're, like, aspirational almost.
Well, and something that made me think about this too recently is like this girl on TikTok is going really mega viral called Kylie Perkins, and her whole kind of thing is like, get up and clean, you're lazy and unmotivated and you need to clean and this and stuff. And it's just so shame based. And I think that's what all of this stuff is because it's sounds so great to people, in the beginning, like, and they feel super motivated to do all of this stuff. And I think that's how it is in a faith way.
Yeah.
I find Girls Gone Bible, they're like, oh, I need to do all this stuff. I need to dress more modestly. I need to, be a traditional woman and do all this stuff. And then they realize in the long term, like, that's not a sustainable way to, have faith and follow, like, real, even like for Christians as me, like watching that content, I just know that, it's going to burn them out super quick because it's just so based in like shame. And on their episodes, they're always crying and like upset and sad. It's like, that's not what, even like life and Christianity and religion, all that needs to be like, it's about positivity and loving one another and loving a neighbor. And I'm never once have I heard them talk on their podcast about these type of stuff, like helping homeless people, helping people less fortunate than you. Yet, all they talk about is again like shame-based things because it draws the viewer back in and say, well, I'm not good enough. And and of course you feel that way when you're watching them because they're gorgeous women. So you're like, well, if I don't look like that and I'm not doing what they're doing and doing all the things they're saying, then I am like not great, So it's crazy stuff to put out there. I mean, so damaging, especially for younger women. I mean, I'm 23, I'm still pretty young, but I can't even imagine if, I was like 17, 18 consuming their content. It probably would have been super, confusing for me.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely like perpetuate that shame cycle because their fans see them as these aspirational figures that they need to live up to. They need to live up to their standards, but ultimately, like, they're never going to. Like, their fans are never going to. Most likely, their fans aren't going to be these successful influencers. They're not going to be actresses like them, and they're going to feel shame over that, or feel shame over not living the like conservative Christian standards that Angela and Ari like give to them. And then that kind of just perpetuates this shame cycle again. So you mentioned also that you went to their world tour, and I was wondering if you could talk about your experience with that.
Yeah, so I went back in October. I think it was like early October. So it's actually right before they endorsed Trump. So it was like before that. So I was very excited. And I ended up getting, there was like a huge line for merch. It was like crazy, but I ended up just getting like two cute little t-shirts, but I tried not to get the ones with their face plastered over them, because even as a fan, I was just like, that's kind of weird. I just feel like if I don't know. I don't like idolizing people like that. I just wouldn't want to walk around with their faces on a t-shirt. I just didn't get it.
Well, it seems like it's more about them than it is about God.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. It's right in front of our faces. But when you say it, it's like, no, you're this and that. It's like, no, it is. I mean, they're selling t-shirts with their faces like all over it, at the show. So it's like, I wish they I mean, they had some shirts that were more just like, Jesus, God stuff on them and not their faces, but because I got those, but not the up, like, it was just crazy. And then a lot of it, and I know some churches have, my church doesn't do this, but during kind of like the beginning part, they had someone like doing music, but they had this guy do like the music the whole time. So I think it's like kind of like they need to like a little bit of a backtrack if they kind of like, it just kind of like, okay, you needed someone to like play music in the background for this whole thing, like this whole time. This guy needs to sit there on the piano and just like strum a few chords and like make it sound more dramatic. That's why I just feel like it's, like, very trying to, like, emotionally induce you, you know what I mean? Sure, it's dark in there, they have the lights low, he's playing this emotional, like, worship music, and then they come out and they're like they'll, like, do a song do a worship song with him playing in the background, and then they ended up, like, talking about their testimonies first, which I wasn't even, like, considered myself a big fan of theirs, but I had already heard their testimonies on YouTube.
That's
So I
one
went
of their first podcast episodes is about their testimony, and you can get that for free.
yeah, you can I mean, it's pretty much the same story. It was just, like, drawn out, like, maybe, like, 5 or 10 more minutes, and, of course, it was, like because I think Ari's story was about her, like, modeling wedding dresses at this photo shoot, and she was, like, crying over, like, a boyfriend or a guy or something. That's when, like, Angela found her. I honestly don't even know if I believe that these stories are true. But because I mean, it's just, like, an insane story to, like,
Yeah.
contribute to your test, like and that's what my issue with it is just have, like, these one stories, and, Angela's hers is built around this night in 2019 near Thanksgiving that she, like I guess the guy that she was with at the time, had realized that she was a borderline alcoholic and had told her, like, "Hey, if you don't" change yourself, get help, like, I'm gonna leave. And so I don't know if like I think him leaving kind of forced her, like he must have ended up leaving the relationship and then kind of forced her into so it's very lucrative because she tells like different stories. Like I've listened to 3 different podcast clips and obviously seen at her show and like her exact testimony it doesn't add up, you know what I mean? Because I guess it was, like, a few nights after Thanksgiving, but she talked about this one night where Jesus, like she'll be like, "He got into my head and changed something, and he chemically altered it, and you can't do that without help or treatment or going to rehab, but he did it for me." Like, basically saying that she was an alcoholic and Jesus alone fixed her. And, of course, mentioned this, it's just such a harmful thing to put out there because especially alcoholism and alcoholics, it's not something to play around with. Yeah, I mean, this is like it is so dangerous to stop drinking cold turkey. I've had so many patients come in and like you can have seizures, like prolonged seizures. I mean, you need, and it's also like very, again, shame based because if, people watching that, if they struggle with alcohol issues or drinking, they might feel like just because they didn't find that little peace with God or just because Jesus didn't get into their heads and fix their, problems with alcohol like they did for Angela, then they're a failure. So, I think just the way that she words her testimony is super harmful as well. I think it would be more, productive to, say something like through Jesus and helping with professionals, getting professional help with, experts, going to rehab even. I mean, talk about methods that are actually proven scientifically and evidence-based to help people, get off of alcohol if they're, having struggles with drinking.
Yeah,
Um,
like you said, like the whole testimony of Ari's is kind of super foundational, it seems like, to Girls Gone Bible. It kind of seems like to me that they've built their whole brand off of that. And I've seen both Angela and Ari claim that when it comes to substance abuse or if it's like mental health stuff, depression, anxiety, that God is the only one who can fix it. And they'll talk sometimes about like therapy or medication or whatever, but they've both like verbatim said that only God can fix it. And that's a very dangerous message to be spreading because for a lot of people, just like praying and trusting God and reading your Bible is not going to be enough to fix these things. A lot of people need therapy. A lot of people need medications. And it's almost like they kind of shame and guilt their fans who do use those resources and
yeah.
kind of send them the message that, like, if you really trusted God enough, then all of these problems would be solved. And it's just like, that's not how it works at all. But going back to we were talking about their world tour. You had mentioned to me that you, I think, spent like $200 on tickets. Was that for just you or?
It was for me and one other ticket, and I was, like, not even I forget exactly how it was at the Straz Center in Tampa. It was in like one of the smaller performance halls. But it was not close to the stage at all. Like I feel like that Vinny could have gotten me like a ticket like right in front. Like I was so behind. Like I didn't even get like close to them when they were doing their that altar call. But I mean I didn't really we'll talk about that. But I didn't even get close to them during that. So it just shows you how far back I was. So yeah.
That's like a really crazy high amount to me. And also, because from what you've said about their show, it honestly just seems like it's a church service because all they're doing is like worshiping and then sharing their testimony. So to me, it seems like they're charging, I guess, $100 for your ticket and even more expensive for people that are closer. Basically, they're charging people to go to church. I don't know. That seems really
Weird. I don't know how event planning works. Like, I don't know if it's like the thing with security or
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, maybe that's the only thing I can think. But, then again, I feel like a lot of churches would open their doors for them to host these events like that. And I've seen this get brought up by a couple like netizens online. It's like they're just kind of wondering, like, they just didn't feel like they do enough to kind of talk about because the Bible talks about a lot that it's tougher for a rich man to get into heaven than a poor man. So
Yeah.
it's like it seems like they're just trying to make a lot of money and like it's like I just feel like they could try to do a few more things maybe to make things cheaper. And so a lot of people comment, they're like, I was gonna go to their show, but their tickets were like insanely expensive. I'm like, it should not be at all, especially for what you're getting.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like really expensive to me because I've spent less than that to go see like bands, you know? So that
Yeah.
seems kind of outrageous to me. But also it's like they should be figuring out a way to make that cheaper for their fans because considering that a lot of them are young women, people aren't going to be able to afford that. And secondly, if they're charging, they need to be offering something that's not just what's already in their YouTube videos that are online for free. Like you can't charge people for the same shit that you did in a video. Like, you know what I mean? Editing Taylor here. All right, so I am just doing a little bit of research on Girls Gone Bible's ticket prices. So they're actually coming to San Antonio April 27th. Today is March 12th. So we're more than a month out. I'm not looking at these tickets super last minute or anything like that. And holy fucking shit, these tickets are insanely expensive. The cheapest ticket option I see, and I'm just looking for one ticket, is $149, and that's for the balcony. Their tickets go up to $700 for a ticket. Like, what? And that's for like Orchestra Center. But I'm like shocked. So you guys all know that I am a huge Ghost fan. I recently bought tickets, I got tickets for the Ghost concert that's in August in Austin. And the tickets I bought were like the VIP ones that were not the pit, unfortunately. That's what I wanted, but they were completely sold out. So I got like pretty close to the stage. And for Drew and I mean, I think I spent a pretty big chunk of change on that. Like, I think it was like over $1,000 for both of us. But that's to see fucking Ghost. Like, Ghost is iconic. It's one of the biggest rock bands there is right now. And the Girls Gone Bible tickets are rivaling that. And like literally all they're doing, from what Jenny explained, is they're putting on a church service. Like, why is no one else talking about, like, this is insane. These women are like raking in the money by monetizing faith, by like monetizing a fucking church service. Like, you can go to church and hear the same shit. You can go to church for free and get the exact same thing that Girls Gone Bible is offering. Like, my mind's blown. Okay, a little bit of a correction. I am finding some tickets that are a lot cheaper on different websites. It seemed like the website I was looking at was one of the more expensive options. I am finding tickets for around $40, but those are like way, way in the back, it seems like. And then the ones that are really close to the stage are, up there in price for sure. But I still just can't get over how I don't understand, like, what are they charging for? Like, what is the product they're offering? Because it sounds like all they're doing is like singing together and then like they're sharing their testimonies and they're praying with their fans. Like, are you really gonna spend like, $100 or more to have somebody pray for you? You can go to church and get that for free. Like, I personally, I struggle to understand like what the appeal is at all. Also, ignore my janky ass lashes. I have lash extensions right now, but like they're kind of coming off over here because I lay on this side to sleep. So they're a little, when I look up, it looks a little crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And I think like maybe a lot of they're like relying on that like altar call thing like at the end of it. Maybe that's why a lot of people, but and I think but I don't know, like why not have like a meet and greet type of thing? I just that during like that was I mean it's just so weird like to just play this music and have people like and these girls are like sobbing, like absolutely just like crying and I'm like, what did I was like, did I miss something? Like why like and it make of course, at the time, I was like, maybe I'm just not, like, good enough in my Christian faith, and I'm not, like, emotional crying, but it's like, that's not what should like, religion should be, like, you shouldn't be, like, sad and crying, and then they're, like, touching their heads and, like, you know, praying over them, and, like, they went on and on so long till with it, like, their security had to come out and be like, wrap it up." It's just like well, I just don't really know why that part's necessary. I understand wanting to meet your fans, but I just feel like there's like no, like what other and just it's just weird. Like it's just very like they want you to just be like emotionally drawn into them and be so upset and like, them to have that validation almost.
Yeah, it definitely seems like they're getting their fans into this emotional mindset. And then they're kind of using that to prey on them, is what it seems like to me. And it also seems like they're basically monetizing having a spiritual experience. And people should be able to have a spiritual experience without paying for it, you know?
Exactly. I know. Yeah. And so that's like and this selling of merch. And then, yeah, also they made like the Girls Gone Bible Plus. And I've talked to a lot of people online even too. They've, just expressed to me that it's like they started this Girls Gone Bible Plus because they were gonna like be more open about stuff and share more things. And I had to subscribe to it like 2 weeks ago because they posted an episode like right after I had posted my TikTok, and it was basically called I forget what it was called, but basically the whole episode they were just like crying, like Angela was like just like sobbing, crying. They both were. It was like about like forgiveness or something like that. And it was just like what was even crazier is like when I started listening to it, I bought Girls Gone Bible Plus. It was like $7. So I was like, I just need to listen to this week. So I wanted to see if they were gonna like say anything about all of the allegations that had been brought against them. And they had ads. They had ads on Girls Gone Bible Plus. They had AG1 Green sponsoring them and like two other companies. So I was like, why are there ads, like ad breaks on Girls Gone Bible Plus? Like,
Yeah, the people are already like, so I guess I haven't gotten Girls Gone Bible Plus. Maybe I should to kind of see what's going on there. But what I understand, it's like a subscription that you can pay, kind of like Patreon, so you can get some extra content. And so I guess Angela made a video where she was crying, and it seemed like she was crying about the
it's
allegations.
like she alluded to it, but like didn't really address it. She was like kind of talking about like her family childhood issues as well. So it wasn't really sure if she was talking about that or what. So it was really lucrative, especially if they want to like claim that they made GG Plus to be more real. It's like, well, what are you being real about?
Yeah, like just talk about it. Just say what it is, you know? I don't know. Do you know the Christian influencers Ashley Hetherington and Ali Yost? So like after your TikTok, I saw that Ali Yost like posted something that was also talking about forgiveness, and I was like, I don't know if that is connected at all or what's going on with
I know. I wondered if she made that video about me, but I think she made it about Avery Woods. Because at the time, like right when I posted my video, the whole Avery Woods drama happened where Avery like said that thing about Jesus. That wasn't a super big, yeah, it was a big controversy.
I guess I don't know what did he say? I'm not sure if I'm
So Avery Woods is like she has a podcast. It's on the Unwell Network, I believe, and she had a podcast with Harry Jossie, and she was kind of being very like a little bit like flirtatious, I guess, trying to be wild, crazy out there, and had said something about Christians, like saying like the people with like the Bible verses in their bios will be like the most judgmental, or like the people that go to church on Sunday. So, every Sunday are the most judgmental. And but then she said something about like Jesus is gonna bend you over and like it was really bad. And she had this whole kind of like cancellation because people didn't like what she said about Jesus. So I think because what Ali was like saying in her video was like cancel culture is not of the world, which is so annoying because it's like cancel culture isn't like it's just holding people accountable.
right. Yeah.
For their actions. So and yeah, it was just annoying because I saw some people trying to tag me in that. I was like, this is not about me.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, that's cancel culture doesn't really exist. Like, it's for one, when people say that they're being canceled, it's like, okay, you did something wrong that you're now being held accountable for. And also, you can't ever really be canceled because you'll always find an audience somewhere. And a lot of these people, when they're called out, they'll just move further to the right because people on the right tend to not really care about like allegations as much. But yeah, okay, that's interesting. I guess you already touched on a lot of it, but was there anything else that you found concerning that Girls Gone Bible did that kind of led to you speaking out?
So I think originally things I kind of started with, I just made a TikTok one night about them talking at Donald Trump's rally because I just kind of made that for myself because I was like, ooh, if things go crazy this year, I don't want to like look back and be like, I didn't use my platform to speak up about things I didn't care about. So I just kind of made a TikTok just sitting in my dining room just one night, like, I'm just going to talk about this. And even some of the videos, I said some crazy stuff, like, but I kind of, held them to it because it's, and it's genuinely how I feel because it's like, they do so much to talk about, again, like shame, guilt, all this stuff.
Yeah.
But, they teach the real teachings of the Bible and Jesus, which is caring for people that are less fortunate than you. And it's looking after people that are, your neighbor, love your neighbor, no matter what, no matter if they're here legally. Like,
Yeah.
that is what Jesus taught genuinely. And it's really upsetting for me to see them not talk about that at all. And them kind of make Christianity this like face value type of thing, and for them to act like it's so important to pray for Donald Trump. Like, where are you praying like for the immigrants and the people being separated from their families and these people that are women that are being denied basic healthcare rights? Where is that? Where's that energy? So it was just really hurtful to see them, obviously speaking at his, inauguration when they try to use. And then to say, no weapon against Donald Trump, any tongue that speaks against him will be condemned was, very toxic to say. And
Super crazy. They're basically saying like anyone that opposes him or disagrees with him needs to be condemned, whatever that means. Like that's
you got the talking head of Paula White, the new there's videos of her saying that around Donald Trump too. So I wonder if they just saw that video and were like, they'll love that. Like,
probably.
and I think I think Angela is very smart, and I think she knows. I mean, she named their podcast Girls Gone Wild, or Bible, after Girls Gone Wild. Like, she is very smart marketing wise. And I think she knew it would be maybe better for their brand to side with that. Because honestly, deep down, I honestly don't think that like Angela really even thinks that way. I honestly feel like she might have been like even more liberal or progressive before, especially knowing like who her ex was and like who she was with in the past. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
especially if you grew like, were in LA for a while and she's an immigrant. Like that
Yeah.
that's also what doesn't make sense. But I think she's just very smart and like she knew that like siding with that audience would just absolutely, I mean, they're beautiful women. They know what to say, they know what to do. I think they knew that it would be like a crazy marketing move to market themselves with Donald Trump, and they're just like putting on this facade and saying, because if you're a true Christian, like you would never say stuff like that. And that's why I'm like, and for weeks I've been like genuinely even scared to talk about this because I'm like, how is Angela not like terrified even like as someone who like does have some faith? I'm like, she's just, I mean, how is she not scared of like God's real like wrath and stuff like that? And like it's terrifying to see someone like that just openly just keep lying and lying and lying and lying and just not. It's like she's almost like waiting for someone to call her out. That's why I'm just it's hurtful. It's crazy. It's like
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and like you said, I think she is a master marketer, and she knows that being on the side of Donald Trump is going to help them in the long run, especially with the niche of audience that she has, because a lot of them are evangelical Christians, and evangelicals disproportionately support Trump. So, and I think it's also beneficial for Trump because I don't know if because I also made a video about that whole thing, but I mean, Trump,
mhm.
he's smart. Before he got elected, he went on a lot of like bro podcasts, and he knew that he needed to do that in order to secure younger votes. And I think that he also knows like that those are more directed towards men, and so to capture that like young women audience, he's gonna need to have some sort of connection with like Christian women podcasters. So to me, it seemed like a very transactional support.
No,
I don't really know how much.
I would even be like surprised if they were paid to post that video on
Yeah,
Instagram. I'm sure because I mean he was, probably getting, I mean, he had to have some business deal worked out with like Aiden Ross and KS, like all to go on those podcasts. So for them to post that, I work in social media. We both do. We know how it is. Everything that you post, it's transactional. Like the other person wants something out of it. So totally, it makes sense. Like
yeah, and I think that's why it's so dangerous to wrap up your faith and Christianity so much with like your influencer side, because I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with like bringing your faith into your influencing. I do that for myself because I am like a spiritual person, but connecting it so much and like intertwining it to that degree, I think is dangerous.
yeah, and it's just being honest about it. Like I'll be honest and say like, yeah, I support the Democratic Party because I believe as a Christian that those values more align with Jesus's teachings. People will tear me apart all they want for saying it, but that's what I believe. You know what I mean? And it's just like as long as you're honest about it, I'm not just gonna like get on here and say, well, I'm neutral and this and that. Like, just pick a side, stand on it. If that's what you believe, that's okay. We all will have different beliefs. Like, obviously right now I think things have changed because of the extremes they've gone, and it's been disappointing even seeing how they endorsed him in October, and then here we are in March. Insane things have been happening and they've been absolutely silent. I mean, none of this has been nothing has been where to cross the line. None of Trump's claims for ethnic cleansing in Gaza, nothing Trump's saying about Gaza, nothing Trump's doing right now, nothing that they've been affiliated with. I mean, it's like they're laughing on our faces, like just like they got that check, it cleared.
Yeah, they don't care. That's all they care about
Literally.
at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it sucks to see. It's like, oh my goodness, like, it's like they just, I think it's just very obvious because I mean, they know this industry well. They were, in LA. They lived in LA for, probably more than 10 years because I know Ari has been in there like with, who knows who, everybody, all that. And it's just, she's been in LA for a while, so they know how the game works, they know the system. And I think I saw in one of your videos, you made a point that just like, they weren't really like booking really big roles in movies and in the entertainment industry. It's obviously really hard to make it. So I think one of them must have seen this market that has been untapped, and it's just,
Yeah.
they went full feed with, and it makes it even more obvious now. I mean, she has her like managers, like, booking in her, like, I think she works with like United Talent, which is one of like the biggest talent agencies around, and that puts in her bio. I mean, that is what's in her bio. It's just like, it's so obvious. The first thing you have in your bio is your, booking agent's information. It's like, please, you know what I mean? Well, I just think it's very obvious that this is like a side cash grab. They just saw a market that was untapped, and it just, it sucks for people like me that genuinely want to see someone talk about that stuff and succeed. Because I would love to see someone, talk about the realities of like being a woman and, you know, stuff that you go through, and not shame women for, wanting to do stuff. And like, because like I was watching them, and I told you I was a model and Instagram model and did all that stuff. So when they're shaming women for modesty, that, it's harmful. So I'd love to see someone, not shame women and be able to, kind of grow with that as well. So
Yeah, and it's so interesting too because they're big on modesty. They, the modest is hottest, and like you have to save yourself for marriage and the whole purity and modesty culture thing. But at the same time, from what I see on like that they post on social media, to me it strikes me as like this doesn't seem that modest, or like at least it wouldn't seem modest to like most evangelicals. Like obviously I don't have a problem with it. I think that they should be able to wear whatever they want to wear, and there's no, like, I don't have any moral qualms about that. I just find it odd because they're marketing themselves to this like evangelical niche, but then they're not really like living that lifestyle, it seems like. And I also want to talk about that video of Angela where it appears that she's under the influence. Maybe we can't say that for sure.
yes, once a public video.
Everything you got for some. Oh, guys, come on. Come on. I've changed my tune on here. I don't do this type. No, I don't do this type of stuff anymore. I have a religious podcast. Whoa, Rika. Rika. Enjoy it. You know what I'm saying?
Editing Taylor here again with another clarification. So this video is actually sent to Jenny along with this note from an anonymous person who is claiming that both Angela and Ariel are scammers and liars, and that Angela has claimed that she's been sober from alcohol and drugs, but in the video that you can see that that's not the case. They also claim that Angela and Ariel were escorts in the Beverly Hills area. And in that video, they were working that night as poker girls. And apparently they were kind of famous in the poker world of Beverly Hills, and that they were doing this at the same time as filming their Christian podcast. This person claims that Ariel has been an escort for more than 10 years and Angela for about 7 years. And that, again, everybody in the Beverly Hills poker world knows them pretty well. Of course, all of this is alleged. We don't know if any of this is actual fact. However, this video is indicative that there's something going on, something that they're not telling their fans, because it does appear that Angela is under the influence in that video, and she's claimed that she's been sober from alcohol for years.
I think I saw it like kind of late at night. I was just sitting on my couch after watching that video. Even being a fan of theirs, I was like, ew, like I had like a deep like pit in my stomach. Like, that doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? And then kind of having to like untangle this mess and unfold it and pick together the pieces and try to figure out what these things, what this means and what happened. It's been like so tough. You know what I mean? And then, yeah. It's funny because people are like, why don't you just talk to Angela? And what, get manipulated? Like,
I'm sure she'll have some weird excuse for it, but do we know like when that video was taken? Do we know the date?
I'm pretty positive it was the same night they posted the first episode of Girls Gone Bible.
Okay. All right,
because
so yeah.
he's wearing the same dress and the same jewelry and the same makeup and everything as like the first podcast. So the close friend who I now know, and I'm really good friends with her now. I guess they were both working as like poker girls. So I guess they're like like doing stuff with the guys, but they just are like called poker girls because they work at like the poker games because it's like these like, really affluent men that are like, I guess they just pay for like really beautiful, and they're all really beautiful women. Like they're beautiful, gorgeous women. So I can understand why they would, be paid to like be there to just be gorgeous and look hot, while they're doing their poker stuff. So I guess that's what, and then, obviously other stuff. But I think that was like the industry that they were in. And then I think even Ari had been in the industry for a while, and like a lot of people know about her in the poker world. It's just kind of hush hush because and that's kind of how all things are in like Hollywood, Beverly Hills, especially like those rich poker tournaments. I mean, those are like super like, exclusive. So you're not really gonna really hear much about like who's there and who's paying to be there. And it's very swept under the rug. So I can imagine why, Ari and Angela wouldn't want people to know that they were doing this. But I think when you come out and have a whole brand and say that you were, had this crazy awful past, but you're not really clear on what that was, and then this stuff comes up from the past, it's kind of like, well, what do you mean? Like, why didn't you just say that? Because their audience is very supportive. So, I'm pretty sure if they would have just said that they were doing that work while we started the podcast because they needed money, which is understandable. To live in LA, it's very expensive. I get that. That's honest. So I just don't really understand why the lies. Like,
Yeah, it seems like it's the lack of transparency with all of it. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, like poker girls, they're paid to be there and to be gorgeous and to kind of be, I don't know, on the arms of these rich, affluent men. But also, there is some sexual favors that are sometimes involved in that. So there is maybe.
I think they just call it poker girls to like have it like not say like the E word like
Yeah.
during.
Okay. So there is maybe some potential that that's something that they were involved in, although we can't say for sure. But it is interesting with this video where it looks like Angela is under the influence. Again, we don't really know for sure, but it definitely appears that way to me. And she's obviously like, looks like they're partying. I think one girl's like twerking in the background. And this video was maybe posted the same day that they launched their podcast. And in that podcast episode, Angela's talking about how she's been sober. So I think that's like the issue, is that it's a lack of transparency, and it's just like, it seems hypocritical, and that they're presenting themselves as one way online, that they're these Christian girls who have left that life, their past life, in the past, but yet it seems like they're maybe not really living that life that they claim that they are. And I think that, yeah, like you're saying, it's just the inconsistencies, and it's like, how much of this is just branding for their podcast and how much of it is really real. And I think that their fans are owed the truth about this stuff.
Yeah, totally. And that's what I don't understand about, because in faith, we're never perfect. Like we're always gonna mess up and
Yeah.
sin and make mistakes. So, why not just be transparent and say like, we're still doing that. This is how we make money. Like a lot of people have to do sex work to like, provide a life for themselves. That is the reality. And I think it makes me hurt and feel upset that I know that they would shame a woman who does OnlyFans and sex work and stuff like that, but not admit that they would be doing that if this wouldn't have worked out for them. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, you were in that life. You know what I mean? Like I used to do OnlyFans and I stopped because of my own personal reasons, because I felt like it was very detrimental to my self-worth. But I learned that my own way. I didn't, and some people are empowered by sex work, so it's really harmful to be basically an ex-sex worker and to then condemn that lifestyle, or not at least use your platform to share your experience with it. That could be probably helpful to a lot of other women. Instead, you're just obviously shameful of it and try to hide it and cover it up. And, what's even crazier is, my good friend now that I've been talking to about all of this, she was very close to Angela. I mean, she showed me their texts going back and forth. I saw texts of Angela saying, "I love you, my sister. Like, I love you so much." Angela was saying that she was in Vegas trying to work, like all of this stuff. And then eventually she just like cuts off my friend, the one who had told me all this stuff about Angela, who worked with her and was really close to her, and worked with her as a poker girl. And apparently they kind of targeted her and tried to blame her for the video getting leaked. So I guess one girl had accidentally or purposefully had put it on one of her Instagram story highlights. And you can kind of see that because, like, at the end of the video, you can see another Instagram story of like someone, and it like tags another person. So you can see it was like someone's Instagram story. So they somehow blamed it on this girl that I've been talking to and like exiled her from the group and basically blamed it all on her. Because the girl who posted it, covered for Angela when I confronted her about the video.
Okay. How did she
And
cover for her?
She said, "Oh, well, that video is real, but you can ask Angela. She's been sober. I promise you." Like all this stuff. Like, you should DM her. Is what she said to me. And I asked the one who I've been talking to and was, the one who's really good friends with Angela, and she told me like, yeah, no, she's covering for Angela and
Yeah, I
this.
mean, because to me, it honestly does not look like she's sober in that video. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but that's not what it looks like to me. And I to echo kind of like what you. What?
Like, well, I don't think that we're stupid. Like, yeah, we all like know like when we're having fun after like a few drinks with our girlfriends, like there's something wrong about like the video. Like it like what, like, do your thing, look here. But in the video it's not like she's just saying like, "Oh, I can't do this. I have a Christian podcast." Like almost being like she knows that she can't be caught filming a drunk little tipsy video with her friends because she just made a podcast claiming that she was sober.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, like, to echo what you were saying, like, you and I do not have an issue at all with her drinking or her I mean, obviously, I would hope that she's not abusing substances, but I don't have an issue with their past sex work if any of that happened. I don't have an issue with their partying or dressing a certain way. It's not that. It's the hypocrisy of like claiming that they're not while they are, and then like shaming women who for like doing the same thing. So
Yeah.
maybe we can talk a little bit because since you've gone to TikTok with all of your concerns, you've had other women reaching out with their stories. So I was wondering if you could touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, it was. I think mainly it was two girls that were a part of their ministries, I guess, when they were ministering young girls in these like Bible studies. So let's see here. Okay, so I think one of the early churches I know that they were doing some ministry and like Bible study groups in was in Hollywood. I think it was like Mosaic. They did a few there, and one of the girls had talked to me about how she moved to LA when she was like 18 for college. She was super excited to kind of get started with her life out there, and she was like kind of growing in her academia and her like her yeah spirituality as well. And so that's when she found or I think Angela originally at this Bible study at the church in Hollywood. And they started like going to the Bible study regularly. And then I think that's when Ari started going too. And so she kind of saw them as like bigger sisters, like how I saw them as like watching, their first podcast episode as, someone to look up to. And I think she stated that Angela seemed really knowledgeable about her faith. And, she thought that she could, look up to her and kind of find her guidance. So she ended up getting like kind of spiritually mentored by Angela. And at the time, it seemed like super genuine. But then she said it like quickly turned super toxic. And she was like struggling with stuff like self-harm and lust. And at that time, like they were kind of just telling her that Jesus turn his face away from her, and that she wasn't gonna get into heaven for all of that. And it like shattered she said it like shattered her trust completely in, her faith. And like spent like kind of sent her into a downward spiral. And she said it got even worse when she started like really going to Mosaic a lot, because they went and I think they told the pastor about all of the stuff that she was struggling with. I don't know if they were just thought that it would help, but apparently they just told her all of like, I guess they must have told the pastor that she was struggling with self-harm without her consent. And then like when she confronted Ari and Angela, we're kind of like, why would you tell him all of that? Like, I didn't want you to tell him that I was struggling with God, just to get, it's kind of personal. They just blocked her and cut her off on it. That was not, and she like had to like, she was going through a lot of stuff. Had like, I think something happened, like just like went to downward spiral with like mental health, had to go live back with her family. Oh, just having a hard time to hear that. And that story, it just was really similar to another story that was shared with me as well about, I think it was another girl who met Ari and Angela at a Bible study, and she was having struggles drinking. And Angela kind of like preyed on her vulnerability and used her vulnerability to get close to her, and kind of, said that she struggled with drinking as well. And she was like, super glad that she had Angela to talk to about this stuff. And she knew that, oh, she struggled with this before. Maybe she can help me since I'm struggling with the same thing. And then she was telling me, well, I found out after all of this that it wasn't even true, that Angela wasn't even sober. And she told me that unfortunately, because she was like, I got into some trouble with like drinking, like, too much. She didn't like, I was like, you don't have to tell me exactly, what you did to get in trouble, but she did have like a probation officer like set up, and like had to, check in with them regularly. And after her trying to confront Angela about like her like being like, hey, I heard that like maybe it's not true that you were at like a friend's house drinking one night. She asked Angela about that, and then right after that, Angela just cut her off, blocked her number. And then I think she even included me that she like told her probation officer that she had slipped up again, and like just totally cut her off after that. And she said it was so hard, after that, to recover from all this. So it's like not just one story, it's 10 stories. It seems like it's like, they're wanting all of this stuff from someone, trying to, provide guidance for them, and then just cut them off as soon as, they receive any pushback or like real, questions, being asked. So, and then another comment I had gotten a few of my TikToks was about I think they had done like a podcast, which the girl had not responded to me just yet, because I don't know if she was comfortable with like telling me who it was, since apparently this pastor had tried to like do sexual inappropriate things with her. But she said it was like a pastor that had given us talk to them when they like did a little small Bible study group in Canada. So this must have been like a little bit while like before they started their podcast. I think it was a little bit ago.
And on Bible had them on, or had this pastor on?
Yeah, I had this guy, and so, and then she was kind of like, hey, I had like a weird experience with this guy, like X, Y, and Z happened, like told them her whole story, and was like, we're gonna delete the episode, because they, sympathized with her and was like, that's awful and all of this stuff, but then never really took down their episode with him. So, she was kind of concerned about, why would you still affiliate with yourself with someone like that, So it's just very disturbing that I've had multiple people come to me about multiple stories that have been them actively dismissing women's claims of, sexual abuse, is very like disturbing. And of course, the drinking stuff is awful, and it's never okay to lie to someone's probation officer. But it's a theme and a pattern, it seems like these girls have, of just cutting people off and leaving them high and dry.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, I think, like you said, like this is not just a one-off story. There are multiple people coming forward saying that they've had these bad experiences with them. So there's obviously something to this, and it's clear that this is kind of Girls Gone Bible's MO, to target these people that are vulnerable and are struggling or having issues in their life, get close to them. And then when these women look to them for help, because obviously Angela and Ari position themselves as mentors, so these women are going to want some help, or at least I don't know, affirmations from these people that they see as sisters in Christ. And then to have them go to a probation officer and lie is wild. And then going without that one woman's consent to a pastor and telling her pastor about all these things that she's supposedly doing. Like, there's like no words for how disgusting that is to me, because clearly it shows that they don't actually have any empathy really for their followers or their fans. Like, they see them as like transactional simply, and as soon as they can't use them to whatever ends they want to, they kind of discard them. So, I mean, first, I do want to say, like, I really feel for these women, and I'll definitely respect their anonymity, and we don't have to like name the exact pastor, but it is very concerning to me that this is all going on.
Yeah, I feel like it's, and then, obviously hearing these stories and then knowing, what their shows and how much they're charging and all of that drama, it's just very clear that it seems very transactional and performative with their faith rather than genuine. So that's something that's also been made very clear throughout all of this, in my opinion.
I would like to see, them respond to this and address some of these, because these are very serious allegations. What they've done to these women is very serious, and I think it's something that needs to be brought into the light, and I think that they need to be held accountable for this, and I think that their fans need to see that, the perfect image that they supposedly have could be a facade. So I really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to talk to me about this. I want to be respectful of your time, so I think I'll wrap up here. Do you have anything that you'd like to plug, like Instagram or anything? I want to make sure that I send my followers over to you and that they give you some love and support.
Yeah, my Instagram's just Jenny with 2 Y's and then Nieman, Niemann with 2 N's. So that's where I kind of plug most of my stuff. So if you have me on Instagram, you'll see most of my other stuff. So, but I appreciate you and giving me an amazing platform to speak up on these issues. I think people like you and I right now are super needed to, talk about this stuff. It's a crazy world right now. And I hope that people like you and I can just come together more and realize that not everyone in the world is like that.
Definitely. Yeah, I am so happy to have somebody else that I'm like, finally, someone else is talking about this. But yeah, I'm gonna for sure. Everybody go and like follow you. You post some really beautiful pictures. So yeah, I think people enjoy your content. But all right, let me stop recording real quick. I realized I did not record a sign off. So here's a sign off in my kitchen with my pile of clean laundry that I need to fold in the background. But thank you guys so much for watching, and a huge thank you to my patrons who help make these videos possible. If you like this video, please be sure to subscribe and ring the bell. If you'd like to follow me on social media, my Instagram is Taylor_the_antibot. And if you'd like to consider supporting this channel financially, a link to my Patreon will be down in the description, and I'll see you on the next one. Say bye.